have audio, we have visual, we're streaming on YouTube. Ready when you are, Mayor McClure.
Ready, okay. I'll call this meeting of the Seward City Council to order. It's Monday, April 27th, 2026, 7 p.m. Our chief, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Roll call for tonight's meeting. Warner?
Here.
Barnwell?
Here.
Draper?
Here. You first.
Kreitz is excused. Calhoun?
Here.
Osinga?
Here.
And Mayor McClure.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We have a couple of proclamations. I've asked the Vice Mayor to read the first one. It's for the recognition of the Seward Seahawks cheerleading team.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. Whereas on March 17th, 2026, the Seward Seahawk cheerleaders, consisting of seniors Juniper Ingalls, Lola Swanson, Somi Clandaniel, juniors Josie Andrews and Addison Gerlach, and sophomore Sophia Hughes were overall runner-up in the D2 Alaska State Championship cheer competition, and whereas the Seward Seahawk cheerleaders were also runner-up in the D2 Alaska State Cheer Championship competition in 2025, making them overall runner-up 2 times in a row, and whereas the Seward Seahawks cheerleaders were also awarded the Academic Award in 2024 with a 3.95 cumulative GPA, then in 2025 with a 3.96 cumulative GPA, and whereas the Seward Seahawk cheerleaders, now 3 times in a row, was awarded the Academic Award winners by having the highest 3.99 cumulative GPA at the 2026 D2 Alaska State Cheer Championship, and whereas the Seward Seahawks cheerleaders won the D2 State 2026 Cheer Championship Game Day Award, where they competed in a routine that was remarkable and stood out from the other competitors. Now therefore, Sue McClure, Mayor of the City of Seward, Alaska, does hereby congratulate the Seward Seahawk cheerleaders for their accomplishments of awards in the D2 Regional and 2-time D2 State runner-up at the Cheer State Championship competition, along with other accomplishments throughout their cheer season, dated this 27th day of April in 2026 in the City of Seward, Alaska.
Cheerleaders here, and if so, which I know we've got a few in the coach, maybe, no? If you could come up here so people could see your faces.
Sorry, I didn't know anybody was
And
here.
yeah, I should have said, and we've got copies of that for everyone that you could distribute.
Distribute those?
They were also awarded at the a proclamation at the Borough Assembly last week, which was pretty nifty. Is there anyone else out there that wants?
There is.
They're waiting.
They're coming.
Okay.
Oh. Well, sorry.
You guys need a little talk right now while you're waiting.
There is a cheerleader, okay. So, does anyone want to say anything about this great accomplishment? I know one person speaks very well, so at least. Or a thank you would be, okay.
Thank you so much. We had so much fun. We're very happy to be here and share this with you guys. Oh God, I didn't know we were talking. I'm just very grateful for these 4 years that I had with this team, and I'm so grateful for all that we were able to accomplish and the program that we were able to kind of build up, because we came in with like 3 or 4 cheerleaders. We had only 2 return the next season, and we really just like grown the program since then, from freshman to senior year.
Well, good job, you guys. Thank you. Okay, and the other proclamation I will read, this is close to my heart, about the science ball. Whereas the Seward High School National Ocean Science Ball team, Tropic of Answer, consisting of Esme Wilder, Otto Nip, Maddie Haas, Emily Anger, and Kira DeSermia, won the 2026 First Place Award for Research Paper and Presentation, and second place overall at the Alaska Tsunami Bowl. And whereas the Seward High School team idling iders, Olive James, Axel LaRock, Jonas Mosman, and Paxson Crater, won 4th place for their research paper and presentation, and 8th place overall at the Alaska Tsunami Bowl. And whereas the Alaska Tsunami Bowl is the state of Alaska's regional competition for the National Ocean Science Bowl, NOSB, a nationwide academic program focused on ocean science education, and in 2026 featured 16 teams from across the state competing. And whereas these teams met weekly throughout the school year to study a college-level oceanography curriculum encompassing marine biology, ocean chemistry, yay, geology, physics, geography, history, and literature, and participated in multiple field trips to local marine science organizations, as well as a regional competition at the Sitka Whale Fest. And whereas the students participated in this rigorous academic endeavor voluntarily and without receiving high school academic credit, demonstrating exceptional initiative, commitment, and passion for learning beyond the classroom. Now therefore I, Sue McClure, Mayor of the City of Seward, Alaska, do hereby congratulate the Seward High School National Ocean Science Bowl teams and commend their outstanding achievements, hard work, and dedication to academic excellence. Signed by me, this date of the 27th day of April, 2026. And I know we have some representatives and people involved. So if you're the only one, you can come up and receive these for all of them. And if you'd like to say anything about this to the public, you could, or you could just accept these and distribute to your colleagues. It's your choice. Okay, here you go. But let me shake your hand. Congratulations. This is something I participated in a whole lot and fought to keep it in Seward rather than Anchorage, and we're really proud of you guys.
Thank you.
And what you've done.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's good to, did you want to say anything more?
I can't really speak for my colleagues, but I, for one, had a lot of fun. It was a great joy learning about our oceans and the Great Lakes, which aren't oceans, but were thrown in there for some reason. I think my friends, colleagues would greatly agree. I think they all really enjoyed it too.
And if you're not familiar with the Tsunami Science Bowl here, it is awesome program. And our students have, under the direction of some really good coaches, have really worked hard and risen through the ranks. Juneau always wins, but, then to come in second is really awesome, so congratulations. Okay, next we have citizen comments on any subject except items scheduled for public hearing. I believe we don't have any public hearings. You'll have 3 minutes. If you've signed in, we'll call you up in order. And there's 36-minute total, so if there's time, I'll call show of hands. And when you come up to the chair there, if you give your name and if you live inside or outside the city limits. Mr. Clerk, who's signed in?
There are 3 people signed in to speak. First on the list is Bruce Jaffa.
Hey, Bruce. Thank you for coming. Please.
Bruce Jaffa, outside city limits. This is likely my last opportunity to brief council on the activities of PACAB. PACAB recently invited speakers to discuss commercial fishing and understand if and why Seward is losing business to other ports. Participants say Seward's role has been in decline in recent years. There's a list of participants on page 2 of the laid out here. Abby Frederick of Silver Bay Seafood spoke of the effort to revitalize Seward fish after years of neglect and reduced activity. She was optimistic about the efforts to improve capacity, which in turn should attract interest by harvest fleet. The facility has significant value, and as it occupies prime docking space, is critical to the success of the harbor. Eddie Wilbur of Copper River Seafoods wrote of challenges including filling needs from the few local maintenance and supply businesses. Even the simple process of unloading at docks or buying the required ice is problematic. We heard about how long-discussed projects such as accessible commercial docks with cranes for loading, unloading, maintenance. These have been studied, approved, placed on legislative priority lists, but never built. A drive-down dock found at other ports is recognized as vital to an active commercial harbor. Moorage at dock spaces by inactive or dormant boats reduces active use and availability, thus forcing boats to other harbors. We were informed that the Harbormaster is aware of some of the issues and will work to improve the management. What PACAB learned is these problems are not strictly related to climate change or high seas troll. Harvest deliveries are being made to other ports due to available facilities and management. The corrective strategy is within the control of this City Council. This is not new information, but the Council and Administration have been remiss in addressing this while seemingly focusing on issues related to tourism. I know the current and past Harbormasters tried to deal with these issues, but they need the encouragement, direction, and authorization of Council. The value of commercial fishing jobs is not exclusive benefit of a strong harbor, or the jobs in that harbor. The character of Seward is tied to ocean. Even tourists come to Seward to see a coastal town, a working town. Commercial fishing is an important part of that. Just as for discussion that you'll have later on, I support the use of heat pump technology in the South Uplands. I strongly endorse, looking closely at Councilmember Draper's letter. The Harbor Basin is an energy source that was imagined by the library. It's a viable option. And lastly, I suggest you stop outsourcing everything. You need a city engineer, come up with ideas directly, quit sending the jobs out of town.
Thank you, Bruce. Mr. Clerk, who's next?
Tim McDonald.
Madam Mayor and Council, good evening. I don't know if anybody noticed, I read the news a lot, but Florida's orange crop has been decimated by a bug. They've lost 80% of their crop, 85%. And that's by number of 100-pound packing cases they ship every year. The Midwest is under assault and whatnot. And the reason this is relevant to Seward is, there's a lot of nurseries, fishery nurseries, not just in Resurrection Bay, but around the 3 barrier islands that extend out in front of Resurrection Bay. There's reliable spots where you can always get chickens. The halibut are done. None of the commercial fishermen even want to fish them anymore because they're too hard to find. When I was a kid, that's all we fished is halibut, and the gray cod and the black cod were not even caught. They were trash fish. We used them for bait if we caught them. And, I mentioned to you before, right past Lowell Point, there's a large gray cod nursery that stretches from a quarter mile past Lowell Point to Tonsina. The islands, there's halibut nurseries, there's other various ones stashed around there. They don't have nurseries out in the open ocean. They're just like any other animals. They want to be protected. They're inshore. And the reason I say this is because, we're getting 76 cruise ships, I think it was mentioned this year, whatever. I know we were up to 105, before the pandemic. But we have to call these guys on the older ships that have the open loop exhaust scrubbers, which those scrubbers circulate 3,000 tons of seawater an hour through their exhaust and carry all that carbon into the water. And it's a killer for those nurseries, And I think Seward's actually pretty good, but we should check, and you shouldn't allow them to cross into city waters. They're massive polluters. The closed loop systems, they contain all that water on board. They scrub the exhaust, keep it on board, and then they unload it as hazmat in Seattle, or I think Prince Rupert, they have a facility. There's also two legislatures that have introduced bills to outlaw open-loop scrubbers and heavy fuels. And that would be Senator Jesse Kyle and Representative Sarah Hananan. And they both have separate bills. They're trying to coordinate them. But you guys need to pay attention to this. This is our food supply, and half the world's about ready to go on a famine. Food's worth more than tourists. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Mr. Clerk, who's the other?
Last on the list is Steve Green.
Hello. My name is Steve Green, and I'm from outside, from Fairbanks, my wife. 4 years ago, I retired out of the operating engineers, and it was not too long after my little sister passed away. She was a police officer for LAPD, and so on Memorial Day of about 4 years ago, I built the decoys that you've all seen at Moose Pass, and I've been testing them ever since. I've tested at Moose Pass, at Cooper Landing, at Girdwood. The city of Houston, for 2 years now, they've used the design to calm the traffic at the Houston, the Founders Day, and did the job really well. That was their traffic control plan, was the decoys. So anyways, I started testing them. I've had a lot of success with them. They've worked everywhere. The original designs were not built to last. In fact, I'm picking the one up on our way out of here at Moose Pass, the original. That's the second one I donated them, and I'm gonna pick that up on my way and take that back and bring it back for Memorial Day. Cooper Landing had one from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and it worked very well. It filled a need. The fire department, they thanked me for it and whatnot. So I built, I think, 6 of those things. I couldn't afford to do it anymore. I built them in my living room, and it was getting kind of stressful for my kids. They didn't want nothing to do with it, so I gave the design to a company that's established in the auto sound design. They're from Anchorage. They're called Perfectionist Auto Sound and Security, and we're building the new design. And this is my first, I gave the company to them, but I'm a salesman now. So this is my first, well, second, I won't talk about the first one that didn't go good, but second city council appearance. We're ready now to take orders and to build them, and you guys are the first. And I mean, Bruce here, he's a witness to how well they worked in Moose Pass, and they're very cost effective, and they're not going nowhere. If you know, I had one stolen at 20 Mile, so, but other than that, I guess I'll have some more time later on.
You will.
Okay.
You may. Thank you. And then that was everyone who signed up. Does anyone else want to speak at this time? Come on up.
Phil Cluza, inside city limits. I hate speaking, so I decided to write up some of my comments on the heat pump opportunities for the upland building. I'm going to keep my comments short. I hope you guys spend a couple minutes to look at those. But first of all, I want to say my numbers are just ballpark estimates. If you got better numbers, let's use them. And clearly, energy costs I trust your opinion better than anybody's as to what's going to happen with future fuel prices. So, well, all I ask is somebody do the math. And maybe the only couple things I'd like to point out is available waste oil. What I gathered from the city is the existing Harbormaster's office uses about 2,500 to 3,000 gallons of waste oil a year. In addition, another 3,000 gallons of regular oil for their heating requirements. So I guess as long as that building is going to be around for the foreseeable future, I don't really see any excess waste oil to be burned. Nor do I see any being hauled out and at an expense. So I would really like to see where we're coming up with our need to burn more waste oil. I guess the other deal is, we talk about it, the new building being very efficient, but I always got to ask, compared to what? Is it compared to a wall tent? Is it compared to current minimum standards? It would just be nice to know a few more facts. And I guess to close out, I just want to I'm using 4,000 gallons as energy use for the new building. Just an energy guru's old estimating. If I take that and I use my 13 kilowatts per gallon, that's going to require 52,000 kilowatts of electricity a year for an air source heat pump to heat that new building. At that 18-cent utility rate that, is being proposed as an incentive rate, that still allows the utility a 4-cent profit. Now, if we burn oil, they get nothing. They sell no extra electricity and they make nothing. So if I take that 4 cents times that 52,000 kilowatts, that's a couple $1,000 of profit that goes to the city of Seward versus buying 4,000 gallons of oil that essentially all that leaves the town. So I guess there's a lot of hidden costs and benefits in all of this, and I just think we need to do some math. And do we want to support local Seward, or do we want to support big oil? Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? There is the 5-minute time at the end also. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I'll move along to the approval of the agenda and consent agenda, and I'd ask for a motion to approve in a second, please.
I'll move for the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda. I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Are there any changes? Anyone? Yeah, Councilmember Werner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor McClure. I was just wondering if we could add one more discussion item to the state funding for that early educator and recruitment and retention.
I don't know. Have we done that before, and is that appropriate since it's not
It's
been
kind of
advertised?
uncommon. What would be the outcome? Would there be action taken, or?
It would be, sorry, Madam Mayor, direction, so similar to a regular discussion item, I would assume. There's no vote taken or action taken, since we can't do that from a discussion item.
But it wasn't advertised. I know, that's kind of a gray zone, correct?
We've done it before in the past.
Right. I just want to clarify before we decide.
Yeah, because it's an amendment to the agenda. Advertising, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, are for large decisions or resolutions or ordinances, so discussion items, I believe, could be, but I'm also not the city clerk, so.
Yeah, what was the title again of the discussion item?
State funding for early educator recruitment and retention.
Okay, comments from council, I guess.
What was the first, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of that. What is the title again?
Funding for early educator.
Okay, thank you.
State funding.
Recruitment and retention?
Okay, is there any objection to adding that as a discussion item then? Okay, I see no objections, so we'll go ahead if it's allowed. Okay, so that will be other new business, item 5. and you could give us the title again when we get to that point, okay? Any other changes, amendments to the agenda? Okay, Mr. Clerk, we're ready to vote.
Voting on the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda as amended. Osenga?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
Draper?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Your agenda and consent agenda have been approved, and on the consent agenda were the April 13th, 2026 City Council meeting minutes, Resolution 2026-042, authorizing the city manager to purchase transformers from General Pacific for electric system improvements in an amount not to exceed $62,080. Resolution 2026-043, authorizing the city manager to accept a loan with the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation Drinking Water Fund for $850,000 with loan forgiveness of $850,000 for the Birch Street water main replacement. And lastly, no grounds for protest to the Amco liquor license renewal and transfer for Zudi's Cafe.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have the city manager report. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The past week was a busy one in Seward. We had the Tony's volleyball tournament on a weekend before last, or 2 weekends ago, and so that was a really exciting time. We saw over 200 people come into town and a lot of exciting volleyball games, which led into two events being held in town. The first was the assembly meeting, as Madam Mayor alluded to. And prior to that assembly meeting, I just wanted to give an update that I did meet with the borough mayor about the funding of pools. So I've been communicating with the borough mayor and the school district and moving forward with those discussions to bring back to council at a later time. We also held the Industry Outlook Forum in town last week as well, and I was able to give a presentation to that group about all the exciting things that we're doing. And there was some, I'm using the word exciting a lot. There was another exciting announcement from the federal government that there will be 2 icebreakers home ported in Alaska. And so Vice Mayor Osenga and I are heading down to Washington, D.C. in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, or 2 weeks from now, because we'll be missing our next May 11th council meeting. But between now and then, I'll be working on a white paper that really showcases why we feel that Seward is the best location for one of those icebreakers. So have been meeting with the different groups of people from across the community, kind of build that case, and I'm excited to go down and report all of that good news and things to the Coast Guard.
Thank you. Mr. Bickling, did you have anything to add?
No further comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Barnwell.
Question to the
Yeah.
city manager.
Oh, yeah.
Can you give us 5 reasons we should have icebreakers here?
Yes, I can. The first 3 reasons, but I'll roll them into one, is our location on the rail system in a deep water port, access by the road system, and flight access in and out. So in comparison to southeast communities who have 1, 2 of those, whether it's ferry system or not being on the road system, we have a whole well-rounded access to the Seward community. It's also part of the reason why we like to live here. You know, we can drive up to Anchorage, we can hop on the train, we can take one of the essential air service flights out if we want. So all of those different transportations are hubbed right here. We also do have developable land. You just recently, at the last council meeting, moved forward with 5 development reimbursement program opportunities, and that's showcasing the developable land and the enhancement that we're giving to the housing in our community. 5 reasons. Okay. 3rd reason, deep water port. Did I say that? But also the maintenance and those resources that come with that through JAG Alaska, Catalyst, those large companies that we have in town working on ships that are working on ships of larger sizes as well. 4, AvTech system is here as well for education and training of those Coast Guard. And I'm going to try and think of a 5th, but I don't have my white paper in front of me. Jason, do we have a 5th?
Not that I can think of.
Because I really want one. No.
You did pretty well.
Yeah, I would say the fifth, we have a lot of community resources in our town that other locations that would be ideal choices for this don't. Larger population base, history of Coast Guard, school systems, recreational opportunities to really make the Coast Guard family feel at home when they moved to the Seward community.
Good job.
Great, that was a good practice round, right?
Other questions or comments? I got to welcome the group for the industry forum and kind of led into the city manager's glowing portrayal of how our economy is doing really well right now. I think we kind of stunned the group there by what happens in Seward, and it was very a good time, I believe.
Yeah, that's good.
No other questions? Okay, well, we'll move on, and thank you for that. And there's nothing from the clerk, correct?
That is correct.
Nothing. Did you go up the mountain today?
I did not.
Oh, I thought I saw your car there. Okay.
Oh, I just went up to the reservoir.
Okay. Just checking. Anyway, this brings us down to, we don't have any ordinances for introduction or anything, so we're down to resolutions. And the first is Resolution 2026-038. And when you're ready, Mr. Clerk, could you please read that into the record?
Resolution 2026-038, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the construction of the Elm Street water main replacement with Metco, Alaska for an amount not to exceed $263,736 plus a 10% contingency.
And you'll find this on page 48 of the packet. I'd ask for a motion to approve and a second, please.
I'll move for the approval of Resolution 2026-038.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Administration, you want to give us a summary of that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will invite the Public Works Director up to speak to this.
Yay.
Thank you. This resolution is for our Elm Street water project we have going on. You've heard several resolutions coming through as we accepted grant money to do it, got it engineered, and now bid out. The bids came in. Two responsive bids. Metco, Alaska was the lowest bid by a good sum. Being local, they did a real good job of bidding it for us. We have the money from the grants to cover it, and we're in good shape on that project. This is just to award that contract to Metco, so it just needs to go through council for the award.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Council, any questions, discussion? It's pretty straightforward. We good to vote on this? Wow. Mr. Clerk.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2026-038. Osenga?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Draper?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
That resolution has been approved.
Okay, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I look forward to bringing more of these.
Yeah. Okay, next is Resolution 2026-039. When you're ready, Mr. Clerk, could you read that one?
Resolution 2026-039, repealing Resolution 2026-023 and replace to add Sturgeon Electric Company as the project manager for the Nash Road Electrical Easement Acquisition Project and reaffirming authorization for professional services agreements and appropriation of funds.
Okay, thank you, and that's on page 55. I'd ask for a motion to approve in a second, please.
I'll move for the approval of Resolution 2026-039.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Administration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a bit of housekeeping. We had previously approved, or you had previously approved a resolution 2026-023, which was for our electrical easements along Nash Road transmission, and it highlighted two of the contractors working on that project, CRW and Alaska Construction. But when it got down to the nuts and bolts of it, we forgot to mention the project manager, Sturgeon Electric, and when we're following code and making sure all of our purchase orders and things abide by our code, we needed to have that name in there. So we wanted to bring this back as a repeal and reenactment of a previous resolution to include Sturgeon Electric as the project manager. This does not change any of the funding that was approved of the $260,000 in the scope of work. It just adds that project manager into that.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions about that? That also seems pretty straightforward to us. Ready to vote? We're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2026-039. Draper?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That resolution has been approved.
Okay. And next, we have Resolution 2026-040. Mr. Clerk.
Resolution 2026-040, approving a revised financial disclosure form for appointed and elected officials. And this one is sponsored by me, if you have any
Sponsored by him.
questions.
It's on page 72. I'd ask for a motion to approve in a second, please.
Move for the approval of Resolution 2026-040. I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, do you want to say something about it?
Yes, thank you. This resolution is what I believe is the first attempt to tailor the financial disclosure form for our community, and I'll just start with a little bit of backstory on this one. In 2012, there was a ballot proposition to make Seward exempt from the state requirements from APOC, and then also in 2012 was a resolution to approve the form to be used with local guidelines and local control. And that form was basically identical to a 2006 APOC form. And so now in 2026, we're still using this form that's like a 2006 APOC form, but yet we do have the control to make our own form. So I was just wanting to take a shot at this and actually tailor the form to fit our needs instead of using a kind of just a one-size-fits-all form. And for those unfamiliar with this form, it's something that council, planning and zoning commissioners, and the city manager do annually.
And it previously contained a lot of things that probably don't really apply. And so, discussion about this. It's something we have to do every year. And I usually take the last year's one and make sure I haven't sold something or, whatever. But Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of questions that I have on this, and we have this office sought or held page, the first page, the city manager, mayor, city council, and planning and zoning. And a question that I had talked to the clerk about a little bit on this was, why is the city clerk not included in that? Since we have one contract employee that's listed on there, why do we not have, I understand why we wouldn't put maybe the law firm on there. But it's just something to think about. It's not a deal breaker or anything like that. It was just a question I had and just wanted people to think about that a little bit as a possibility. The other thing that we've removed with this form, and again, I'm not sure that, no, it's in there. It's just kind of hidden a little bit more. I was talking about spouses because there are some issues. And I think we talked about that a little bit. It looks like that's been added into the verbiage on some of those, and I apologize, I missed that going through. So it's a lot simpler form, and I'm all for that. My only question was, is there a place on there for the city clerk, or does that not matter because they're not as involved in the decision-making that we do? Is that the reason for it?
I think that might have been the original reason, or the statewide form, you probably got it.
Kind of answer that one. Since this is all tied to state requirements, it was just, that was the state requirement, was the city manager, the P&Z, and the council. So we are exempt from those requirements, so we could, if we wanted to, pass an ordinance to add the city clerk to that list. But it kind of goes against, the grain a little bit to add more than the state requires instead of wanting to do
Right.
less than the state requires. But it's certainly doable.
Well, we've managed all these years without having the city clerk fill out the form.
Well, I'm not going to make an amendment to it.
Okay.
It was just a question
It's an
that I
interesting
wanted
question, though.
to bring out.
Yeah. Any changes or amendments anybody wants to make on this? I'm all for easier, too. Are we okay to vote on this? Are we ready? Mr. Clerk?
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2026-040. Calhoun?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
Draper?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That resolution has been approved.
Okay, and our last resolution is Resolution 2026-041. When you're ready, Mr. Clerk, could you read that?
Resolution 2026-041, approving an update to the City of Seward fee schedule to include additional campground fees.
Okay, I'd ask for a motion to approve and a second, please.
I'll move for the approval of Resolution 2026-041.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Who wants to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is an update to our fee schedule to make some changes under campgrounds, really to give some bite for people who do not follow the rules of the campgrounds, whether it's by checking out late, violating a rule, or dumping wastewater. I would like to request tonight that council amend the resolution and strike the dump fee service charge per RV reservation. Since we've brought this forward, we've actually made a lot of steps forward in the dumping station realm, and we'll be moving towards a fee per dump station and bringing that forward under the wastewater. Since it is something that all goes into water sewer, we feel that that would be more appropriate to be in that fund, since that is the fund servicing the wastewater service.
So this is the dump fee service charge of $150?
Yes.
Okay. Correct?
Yes, okay.
Okay. I'll make that motion now. I'll move to remove the dump fee service charge per RV reservation of $1.50, and I'd ask for a second.
A second.
Okay. And you've heard the rationale on that already. Discussion on that amendment. We vote on the amendment, Mr. Clerk?
So voting on the amendment to remove the dump fee service charge per RV reservation of $1.50. Barnwell?
Yes.
Draper?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Warner?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
So that amendment is passed and the main motion as amended is back on the floor.
Okay, any discussion about this? I want to make it clear, this isn't changing the fees for reserving sites or anything like that. It's just if you violate some rules like checking out too late or things like that, there are some fines that are going to be imposed to kind of tighten things up a little. Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what's your plan on the dump fee?
So for the dump fee, the Public Works Director has been working on a fee station so that it would be per individual camper that comes to the fee station, or comes to the dump station. What we've noticed is that a lot of it are our campers, but a lot of people throughout the community also use it, and we'd like to recoup some of those costs for that dump fee station, or that dump station.
So the automated system?
Yep, an automated system, really easy to use, and then those funds will go into the enterprise fund for the wastewater.
Councilmember Grant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just was curious about the wastewater dumping violation fee. Would that Shouldn't that also go in the same place as
Same
rationale, or I don't know?
That would be if they dump it on the ground in their campsite.
Which then,
And so then it becomes a Parks and Rec issue for.
because they have to clean it up. It was a thought that I was going through as well, but Parks and Rec will be the ones who clean that up, unless it's a massive, massive issue, and then $500 doesn't cover it.
And hopefully that never happens, right?
Fingers crossed.
Okay, any other discussion, questions? Ready to vote? We're ready to vote, Mr. Burke.
Okay, final vote on Resolution 2026-041 as amended. Warner?
Yes?
Calhoun?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Draper?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
That resolution has been approved.
Okay, now we're down to all the other new business, which we have now 5 discussion items. The first is to discuss Mountain Haven bond payoff. There's some information on page 93, and this was sponsored by Assemblymember Calhoun. Do you want to kick this off, or do we want administration to say anything first?
Well, I'll let them talk first, Madam Mayor.
Okay, you can choose.
Since I was promoted.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So this discussion item came at the request of Councilmember Calhoun, and the Finance Director and I actually reached out to our financial advisor to kind of walk through the background and some options that are ahead of you. And then I'll just go from there. You know, I won't spoil the presentation surprise. So I believe the city clerk has the financial advisor, Matt, on the Zoom, on the Teams, not Zoom.
Okay,
Are you guys still on?
here we go. Let's see.
Okay. Oh, wonderful, thank you for waiting. Okay. The clerk's getting your presentation on the screen, I believe.
Look at this technology.
Go for it.
It's ready, and he can share his screen whenever he's ready.
Okay, great. Would my video work? Sorry, we're trying to
Well, if you,
get this working.
there you go.
We do now see you.
We can see you.
Okay, great. And one more click and we'll be ready to go. Is that working all right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, great. Well, thank you for allowing me to present to you this afternoon. Maybe an introduction since I haven't been in front of you before. My name is Matt Schoenfeld with PFM Financial Advisors. We've been serving as the city's financial advisor for the better part of the last 3 or 4 years now. We've largely been behind the scenes working with city staff, helping facilitate, for instance, the harbor bond that you just issued for the Harbormaster facility. And it's a pleasure to be able to work with the city and be able to present this to you today. So the city staff approached us to provide what was effectively what was the opportunity cost of paying off the long-term care facility bond for the Mount Haven long-term care facility. And ultimately, it's a fairly simple concept. It's, you know, you have this outstanding debt service. Those bonds are callable. As you may know, all of your city bonds, after 10 years after they're issued, are able to be called at their outstanding principal amount, which they are available as of this year for the long-term care facility bonds. But there's an opportunity cost to that. You know, you have this available cash that is limited for only usage at the long-term care facility. That is something that we had discussed with bond counsel. What that means is that any revenue that's derived by the long-term care facility, whether that's patient revenue or others, can only be used for debt service, operating expenses, or other hospital-related costs. It legally cannot be used for other purposes, such as transferring out of the fund. Because of that, you're kind of locked into these two options. Do you hold on to the cash and potentially earn interest on your investment earnings with that cash, or do you use it to pay off the bonds? And we basically came up with a number and a percentage that shows what would be the effective opportunity cost of doing it. And We used an August 1st payoff date because that's a nice clean date where your principal payments are due. So if you were to execute this on August 1st, 2026, the city would save 1.14 million of future interest payments. Now, if you were to take that money and invest it, as opposed to paying off the debt, and you were to keep that liquid investments for the remaining life of the bonds, if you had an earning rate of 3.1%, and that's based on today's dollars, based on 3.1%, you would be better off not paying the bond off. The city would earn more in interest than it would on the outstanding debt service payments. You'll see that the coupon column on this table, those are the effective interest rates for each maturity of outstanding bonds. All in all, those are pretty low. If you were to issue these bonds today, for instance, the Harbor bond, out of the long end of the curve, those are all 5%. So you have a relatively low cost of capital for these bonds. So the interest earnings that you would need to earn on the investments is also relatively low at 3.1%. So that is basically the figure we have in the back of our mind when you're thinking about whether that money should be used to pay off the bond or not.
Okay.
Great.
Any questions?
Thank you. Questions at this point?
One thing I would like to add to the presentation, you'll notice on the overview slide, one of the things not included in this analysis, since it's a comparison of payoff interest versus potentially gained potential earnings, is that paying off the bond does release an existing debt service reserve fund of about 1.3 million. So just to bring to your awareness and the overall conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilmember Draper.
Yeah, it just occurred to me, are there other future points in time when we have the opportunity to pay it off without penalty?
Every point in time from now until
from now
until
okay.
2033.
So if we see the rates invert a little, we can make another call.
Okay. Councilmember Calhoun, you did bring this forward. What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I brought it forward simply because we were at the point where we couldn't pay it off without penalty, and we were looking at possibilities of the use of the bond reserve money that we would get back in the savings. And so I just thought this was a good time to get the discussion started. Honestly, my thought is I like to get rid of the bond if we could get rid of it. I do understand the possible benefit of keeping the money there and earning a percentage on it. And if that can turn out to be more of a benefit to the community than getting rid of this debt and having that off our books, then I'm open to that. Personally, I like the thought of paying the bond off, having that gone, and then we know a little bit more where we're at. But the problem is, I guess it's always a little bit of a gamble because we don't know what's going to happen in the next 2, 3, 4 years with interest rates and different things like that, and what our investments are going to do, because investing is always a little bit of a gamble. So personally, my thought would be to pay off the bond. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay, Vice Mayor Osenga.
Let me see if I can word this correctly. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So if we do not pay off this bond and we hold on to this for whatever length of time we deem plausible.
7 years.
There's 7 years remaining on the bond.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, but
So
between now and 7 years, we could pay it. But holding on to this doesn't affect us in any way if we're trying to do something in the future where we're looking for anything that we might want to do as a city. this wouldn't
No,
have any effect?
so a similar situation would be with the harbor bond. It's fun, we have a very recent example. We were able to receive that bond funding because a previous bond was paid off, and those fees could be utilized for the next bond. This is not necessarily the case with that. I do know that Matt has his hand raised, so I'll see if he has anything to add.
Yeah, and what Councilmember Calhoun said is an interesting point, and one thing that's not incorporated into this is that now that you can pay it off no penalty, you can also refinance it. So right now, it is not economic to do so because the interest rate on these bonds is so low. But if rates were to go down, meaning you're not earning as much on your cash, you could potentially then refinance it as well and have the benefit on that end. So that's just another wrinkle that isn't captured in here that I wanted to add into. We're getting to the question about additional bonds or additional usage. It would be, if you had other capital projects for the long-term care facility, then paying it off could be a benefit because then you wouldn't have to meet an additional bonds test, which I'll actually reference when we're talking in the next item. But in terms of other city projects elsewhere that are not from the long-term care facility, it does not have much implication at all.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Barnwell.
So, do you manage all of our funds, Matt, or is this just a particular asset that you manage?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We are not investment advisors. We are exclusively work on the capital planning and financing side of things. So we do not manage your cash.
Okay, thanks. So I guess maybe you or somebody from the administration would know this, but if we had $12 million that we want to, and we have 7 years before we have to pay that off, could we go to a management firm and say, hey, we have $12 million, we want to maximize our profit on this in a safe way? I know that cities or bureaucracies, you can't really, they're not as flexible as others, but maybe there's an entity that would manage that and guarantee a certain return. Is that reasonable to expect, or is that just not even feasible from a bureaucracy point?
Sorry, yeah, I'll take that question. Yeah, we can look into something like that. You know, we do currently diversify our investments in a variety of accounts and ways. And if it was something, I know we had discussed it at the last budget cycle on finding an opportunity to enhance those returns. So if that was a more detailed or a more quote-unquote aggressive investment strategy that the council wanted to look towards, we can bring something back in that realm as well. But it's still cost-benefit analysis and a risk. You know, any investment, especially if you go more aggressive, becomes riskier.
Go ahead.
But if you have $12 million and you doubled your take on that, so you have 6%, 6% of 12 is a pretty good chunk of change, way more than $1 million that you'd save by paying this off.
Yeah, so if we had a return of 6% annually, technically, based off of the interest rate, that would leave us with a return of 3% annually. So that would be
3 times 12 is 36, 3.6 million.
3.6 million. Mm-hmm.
You're the financial one. Finance on it?
Yes, thanks.
Councilmember Draper.
Madam Mayor. I just, you know, that it feels good to pay off a debt, and, you know, it feels good to not have a payment, but logically, if you're able to earn more interest than you're paying, it makes sense to hang on to the debt, earn the interest. That's my stance on it.
Well, all we can do tonight is discuss and make a recommendation or to, you know, we can't vote on this. It's more, do we want to proceed one way or the other or do nothing? I think that's where we're heading here. So, Vice Mayor Osenga.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think there's a certain amount of comfort on my part as far as thinking how we're going to move forward with this, and if we can can not get ourselves in a jam by holding on to it and maybe collecting a little more money in the interest ways, then I don't have a problem with that. I would just really want to be careful and make sure that we're not making a mistake here. That's all because, paying off a bond would be great to not have that debt, but at the same time, if you can do this other thing, again, it's the comfort level, and I don't know that I have that comfort myself.
I hear that. Councilmember Calhoun.
I have a question, yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So if we were to hang on to this money, invest it, make some money on it, when we pay off the bond, is the money that we've made on that unencumbered and we can use it for anything we want? It's not stuck with the long-term care facility? Because we use long-term care facility money to make that money?
That's a good question.
Matt,
Yes.
It's a really good question. I think it depends on, there's some accounting nuance that goes into this, which is certainly not my expertise, but generally, my understanding is about 60% about, and if Sully's there, she can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe 60% of the funds that are held in the long-term care facility are derived from the long-term care facility.
Yes,
Which
she's
means about 40% is the 1% sales tax that has been transferred in there as well. That 1% is certainly unencumbered, and it is today. That could be used for anything. Now, the interest earnings is a really interesting question, and I would need to go back and read the bond resolution, because I actually don't know the answer off the top of my head, but it's possible that it's also a pledge revenue if it's from long-term care, or long-term care generated revenues as well.
Okay, and Sully's nodding in agreement on what you just said.
I would want to find out about it.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, that's a really interesting point, because in the makeup of the funds within this long-term care fund, 60% of it is derived from long-term care proceeds, as Matt was saying. And so that interest would be encumbered to be utilized, but then the other 40% is unencumbered, so the 60% could grow while the 40% fills in the rest and then becomes unencumbered beyond that. But that's a very good question that we should probably look into and bring back an answer before we get final direction.
Maybe that's where we should leave this. Well, I'll just suggest that, let's find the answer to that question. Hold on one second, and then bring it back for a future discussion. But Sully's got something to say also.
For that 60%, 39 represent just the DLC fund.
Yeah.
So the other rest is sharing by the entire investment pool in the city. So it's technically encumbered.
Yeah, it's shared throughout the rest of our reserve. So we'll do some research and continue. And I thought I had answered all the questions, so I always appreciate Councilmember Calhoun finding more, and then Councilmember Barnwell always adding a few more on top.
Yes.
Yes.
So money that we did earn in that fund, could you also just explore how we might use that?
Yeah.
I know they talk about expansion and things, and I'm just wondering if that's something that we could use in that fund.
Yeah, that sounds great, to see if there was ability to utilize it in the either long-term care or hospital realm. Yeah, great.
So are we sort of in agreement, and the sponsor of this also, that we're going to ask city manager to do more work for us and Sully and come up with some answers and bring it back when you've got that information, and we will further discuss if that's all right? Okay. Are we needing a break, or shall we keep moving along? We're okay. So our next discussion item is to discuss the internal loan for the electric department. And this is sponsored by the city manager. There's some information on page 97. And Madam City Manager, you want to kick this off?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This discussion item stemmed a little bit from the previous one, but also stems from some past decisions that the council had made to move forward with the electric infrastructure project along Nash Road. And so we've been moving forward with those, and it's at the point where we need to decide how we would like to move forward with the funding for that. Previously, the first half of the project we'd utilize a bond, as Matt discussed. Early prepayment of a bond can cause penalties, so we were hoping in discussions to avoid that. One of the things that we as administration were looking into was using that long-term care fund that we were just talking about as an internal loan, but as we just discussed, that's not possible as well. And so I would like to bring forward today just a discussion on where council would feel most comfortable with administration utilizing funds and bringing forward a funding strategy. Since we had Matt on the phone, we also had him draw up some financing considerations, and so we'll throw it over to Matt to go through some of his considerations.
Okay, Matt, would you give us what you got?
Absolutely. And this is a fairly nuanced discussion, as I'm sure you all are aware. What was presented to us and what we were asked to do is take a look at how the city could finance approximately $12 million for the immediate capital needs for the electric system infrastructure. The original idea that was getting bantered around is, well, some of that money that is available from the long-term care facility, maybe that could be used to provide an interfund loan for the electric system, but as we discussed, that is not possible given the encumbered nature of those funds and the restricted nature of those funds. Per our discussions with city staff, it does not appear that there would be sufficient interfund revenue to at least provide interfund balances to provide.
Matt, I believe you muted briefly?
We just lost your audio. Is there a way of repeating that?
We were doing so well.
You should be able to hear us, but apparently he isn't, so. Don't you love technology? Okay, we've got the.
There's nothing we can do on our end.
I wish.
Is there any way of waving frantically and telling him we
Seward, can you maybe text him briefly? Are we muted? Oh, man.
I mean, I'm muted, but we're listening to him.
Oh, so this is probably, the Polycom is probably.
So he's called in through there?
Yes.
Okay, do we want to take a brief break and try to fix this, or do you think we can get through to him? Because I don't want to waste people's time either.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, that would be great if we could take a brief break.
Let's take a 5-minute break and see if we can get a hold of him, and we'll start over, if that's all right. Okay, about 5 minutes, 8:12 we'll be back. Break anyway. back on.
Okay, we are back on the air.
Okay,
8:16.
so I'm going to call our meeting back to order. It's 8:15, and I think we've rigged a system where we can hear Matt. So are you able to say something to us that we can hear?
Something that you can hear.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay, that'll work. Can we pick up where we were? And I don't remember exactly what was being said.
I don't either, and it's a shame, because I think I just gave the best presentation of my life, but no, I can generally start from the top, and apologies that I can't share my screen at this point, but the general idea was that the city asked us to provide a couple financing options for the electric system for the roughly $12 million of capital needs for the various infrastructure projects. Under the assumption that there wasn't available reserves and other city funds that could provide the interfund loan, especially given the backdrop of what we discussed with the long-term care facility. In the past, the city has issued long-term bonds to the Alaska Municipal Bond Bank, which has served the city quite well because the bond bank is highly rated. But given the backdrop of their uncertainty over the future of the electric utility, issuing long-term debt may not necessarily make sense, because as the city manager mentioned previously, there's no, and as we discussed before, you can't really prepay until 10 years after the bonds are issued. If you were to try to, there would be a pretty considerable, you would effectively have to prepay all of the interest as well through 10 years. So it would be a pretty expensive notion, and certainly would be something that would have to be negotiated if the city were to sell its utility. There are limited options that are available to you. I don't know if somebody has my presentation pulled up or not.
Yes.
But
We will.
they do not.
We have it up.
Okay, great. So it'd be slide 3, just to look at some of the assumptions that we're talking about. For the bond bank bond, it's very similar to what we just did for the harbor. As a matter of fact, the terms are almost identical, because it would be the same credit, it would be the same, effectively term, pricing outcome, similar sizes. The only difference is that it's updated for current market rates, and 25 basis point cushion for some conservatism. We also provided an analysis of a potential interim financing, and the benefit, and the reason we are displaying this for you, is that the loan is much more customizable. It would give you the potential flexibility to prepay early. It could be in the form of a revolving facility, potentially, where you can prepay as you go, or something more like a traditional anticipation note, which is what some other cities have done recently in Alaska, particularly even in the borough. The city of Seward recently did a $5 million bond anticipation note, which they ultimately ended up taking out with a longer-term bond. In order to do this, we did some assumptions based on the potential project draws. These are pretty rough at this point, but the numbers aren't really the important piece here. It's more just kind of conceptually what we're looking at. So if you go to this slide, it's just a high-level look at what the numbers would potentially be, or we estimate them to be. On the left is the traditional bond bank loan. On the right would be the interim financing. And in terms of average payment, in a vacuum, they look pretty similar. But there's a big caveat to that, in that with an interim financing, you're only paying interest. At the end of 3 years, that $12 million that you borrowed will come due all at once. Obviously, that doesn't have to be the case, but generally speaking, for these type of loans, that is the case, and the interest rate is higher because of that. There's also a lot of uncertainty into that rate. You would be working directly with a commercial bank. That bank, the pricing isn't readily available to compare those types of loans. But again, it would be ultimately, a little bit more customizable for you. Generally, if we go to the summary and risk slides, which is slide 6, those first bullets just kind of summarize the inputs here, but the general idea that we hope to take away from this is that a short-term financing really could provide additional flexibility to repay the debt if Seward voters ultimately approve the sale of the electric utility. There are certainly risks that are associated with this. In-term financing often has variable interest rates. That means you're subject to interest rates while the facility is outstanding. The payments aren't necessarily as predictable. There are potentially fixed rate options here. It is less common for this type of facility, but it is possible depending on what path we do go down. Obviously, the big risk is that eventually $12 million would come due or thereabouts, which would be maybe not tenable for the city to pay all at once, but there are strategies that we could consider to mitigate that. Ultimately, the backup plan could always be to issue long-term bonds to the bond bank. It would basically be just refinancing that short-term loan. So there could also be renewal options baked into the loan agreement for this type of facility. So there's ways to mitigate that risk, but it is certainly a risk that I don't want to understate. If you go to slide 7, I did just want to highlight the outstanding bonds for the electric system. And the reason I did that is when we're thinking about the flexibility, issuing a short-term facility only would mitigate part of the problem, right? Because you do have these long-term bonds that are outstanding, and the 2022 series aren't callable until 2031. So if you say the electric utility were to be sold next year, you would still have a pretty considerable interest penalty you would have to pay, or somebody would have to pay to pay off those bonds. So it is, while this is a mitigation strategy in a vacuum, doing a short-term facility like this, it does not ultimately solve the problem in totality. And finally, this is intended to just really be preliminary to kind of start the discussion. A lot more conversations would have to be had both with council and with city council and bond council. My initial read of the electric system bond resolution was that it may not be able to support this type of short-term facility, but it does offer the ability to have subordinate debt, so that might be something that we would need to explore. But ultimately, again, this is just the beginning of the conversation, and more discussions would have to happen until an ultimate recommendation on a method of financing were to come forward.
Okay.
So with that, I will turn it over to questions, or
Okay.
anyone else at the city staff.
Thank you, Matt. It's good to hear your voice again. Council, any questions for Matt or suggestions? Councilman, no?
Not for Matt.
Okay. Great. City manager.
Well, big thank you to Matt for his overview, and to Sulie for working with Matt. One of the things that came about in these two interconnected conversations was the desire to fund these projects, but not really indent ourselves in the long term as we go over the course of the next few months and see what the community input about the future of our electric utility holds. As mentioned, we have a community input and engagement session in May, and we'll do a second survey then. So this is like a cart and a horse kind of racing each other very closely, but the cart is slightly ahead of the horse because we do need to find a way to fund these as we've been moving forward with the infrastructure projects and approving those contracts. One of the things that Sulie and I worked on, Sulie worked on, was coming together with a plan that kind of blends Matt's recommendations with an internal loan. We have one fund that is unencumbered and non-restricted in our central treasury report, and that is the Hospital Enterprise Fund. I don't necessarily want to confuse the difference between long-term care, hospital funds, hospital money, but this is part of the, this fund is the fund that we put the 1% in to support the hospital, but it's unencumbered because it comes from sales tax. And so there's $5.4 million in that fund that could be utilized to kickstart this financing discussion, give some funds into the infrastructure project fund, while we look towards the next few months to see what one of these options will suit us for the long term. And so if that seemed like something that council was interested in, of doing a bridge internal loan with the 5.4 from the hospital enterprise fund, and then directing us to bring something else back later down the line that falls in line with what our long-term vision is, what the community's long-term vision is for the electric utility, would be the finance director and I's recommendation at this point.
Okay. Councilmember Calhoun?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One thing that I'd like the administration to clarify for us is exactly how much money do we actually really need?
Thank you.
Because I think there's an amount of money included based on a discussion that was the meters that's already going to be taken out of the electric MRF fund, correct?
Yes, correct. So if you look at, we have a total project cost of $12 to $13 million, but the meter funds will be coming from the electric MRF fund, which is about 1.2. So at the end of the day, we're looking for about $11 million. $11.2 million.
Okay.
Thank you, Sulie.
Well, that's, Councilmember Barlow.
And is that needed in stages, or when do you need that money?
So, that's a nuanced answer. The money needs to be there, but we could also hold out throughout the course of the next several months. So if we were able to allocate about $5 million, we could get to the end of the year, I believe. We have, I would like to remind council that we have approved and accepted all of the contracts. So all of these costs with contingency have been finalized and built in. So we know that 11.2 isn't going to skyrocket or change, and we know that we're moving forward. As of this past month, though, our fund for this project has gone negative from the 2022 series bonds. So we would like to address that sooner rather than later. But we don't need $11 million tomorrow.
Councilmember Barlow.
The $5 million for the hospital? Didn't Providence just say they had some plans for their eyes on that? So are we interfering with some of their plans there?
Yes, that would be a discussion to have too. There's a lot of infrastructure and projects in the community that people discuss and wanting to bring forward. So that would be a discussion to have with them. But yes, that was discussed with their work session. As stated by Matt, though, one of the things we could do is refinance the debt later on. So if we did get to a point of saying, hey, this is what our goals are with the electric utility, here's what we are doing moving forward, we would like to refinance these, both the internal loan and the remaining debt, that could happen as well.
Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One thing that hopefully this discussion leads us to is at least a decision that we're not going to get into any kind of a long-term debt situation today before we know what's going to happen with our utility. That's the thing, because if we end up selling the utility, we don't want to have a big penalty and a big bond sitting out there that we are stuck with for decades. If we keep the utility, then that is more the time to look at, do we need to do a little bit more of a long-term debt solution, like a bond or something like that. And I know the short-term loan thing where we're just paying interest for 3 years and then we've got a $12 million payment at the end that I am not really comfortable with at all. So I think what the city manager is suggesting at this point is, for me, is probably the most comfortable way to go at this point, because it gives us a short-term solution for now, and then we'll get to the point where we're going to know what we're going to do with the utility, and we can make those bigger long-term decisions at that point, I think.
That sounds reasonable. Are we, Vice Mayor Osinga?
So, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have one kind of question, if anyone can tell me, do we even have anything planned to discuss the future of our electric utility, and when is that?
So we'll have a discussion item on the May 27th meeting. I always forget the date because it's the Tuesday. So the second meeting in May, we'll have a discussion item and then a community town hall after that. And we're hoping to do a final round of surveys and input to see which direction it seems that the community would like to go to. I would think too, looking long-term, we've been having these discussions now for about a year, weighing the pros and cons of each of the paths that we could go down on the electric utility, and I think having a firm decision by the end of the year would be beneficial to both council, our financial health, and the community, so that we kind of say, hey, this is the decision, this is what that we're moving forward with, so that the question mark still is in the air. So if you're looking at timelines, I think having this bridge of the internal loan can help get us to the point where one of the where funding becomes more of a clear pathway. Does that make sense?
Okay. Councilmember Draper.
Just one more thing. Do we have any kind of schedule of when payments might need to be going out from the electric department? Will they know, like, okay, it's $11 million, but over the course of what?
For an internal loan?
Yeah.
Yes, we would incorporate that and create a payment schedule.
No, I mean, contractors being paid, like, how long are these contracts?
For the project.
Yes.
I could understand Seward.
Oh, cash on hand for the project. So we'd like to have cash on hand for the project. Yes, I'd have to dig into that. We have a general idea of what the steps in the process are, when the invoices will come in, but there's also a lot of subcontractors on that, so we could give our best guesses, but I think anything I said could also change with a bad weather window or something along the lines. But at the end of the day, too, it's from a funding standpoint, as the finance director was saying, having cash on hand is helpful, just to make sure that we can cover those as they come in.
Or line of credit.
Yeah, line of credit. Yeah.
My preference.
So how do we want to direct? Are we good with the suggestion that administration made, that Councilmember Calhoun was referring to at this point? Councilmember Burnwell.
Just to reiterate, that would be 5 out of the hospital, and then 6 that would take 7% rolling out for 3 years.
So 5.4 as an internal loan, and then we come back and identify the correct pathway.
We're good with that? I mean, okay. Do you feel directed?
I feel directed, and I thank you, and a big thank you to Matt for logging on tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity this evening.
Okay, next, we have a discussion of the new Harbormaster building heating system. There's some information on page 105, which we seem to have lost, and this was brought to us by Councilmember Draper. Do you want to go first, or do you want administration to speak to this?
I will. Yeah, looks like Jason's referring to me.
Well, I just want you can introduce, and then I can speak to anything on the city's
go ahead,
behalf.
Councilmember Draper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So when we had the design presentation from R&M a while ago, I had asked, is this the time when we talk about, renewable energy systems, or what kind of systems are we going to put in there? And I was told that's the perfect time, but now I'm hearing that we're too far into the process, and getting too far into this could significantly delay the project, and that concerns me, because good planning should not mean that we lose the opportunity to evaluate important decisions. I think this is an important decision. And I'm not here tonight advocating for one system over the other. What I'm asking for is to make a decision having complete information. At this point, we don't have a clear comparison of the total installed cost, expected maintenance costs, equipment lifespan, emissions profile, or regulatory requirements for a waste oil system versus a modern heat pump. We also do not know what testing, pre-treatment, blending, storage, or compliance measures that may be required for used oil under EPA and DEC standards, and what those costs may be over time. We have heard comparisons based on a cost per gallon equivalent, but without knowing the building's projected annual energy demand or expected fuel usage and full operating costs, that number alone does not give us the whole picture. We also have not asked the citizens of Seward what they value in this decision. This is not about what I want or what the staff wants. We work for the citizens of Seward, and they deserve transparency on a long-term public investment like this. If our electrical utility can offer a cost recovery rate for municipal facilities, that may materially change the economics of a cleaner technology. That deserves to be understood as part of the analysis too. And I'm just simply asking for those unknowns to become known, and a focused study would help us make a better decision on this building, and it could also provide valuable guidance for future projects that we've got coming up, our public works building, fire department, police department. We've also significantly invested a lot of effort as a community in reducing emissions at the port. And I think it's reasonable to ask whether our own public buildings should also reflect that same long-term thinking. In my experience, the cheapest and easiest option is not always the best long-term decision, and sometimes doing the right thing requires us to ask a few more questions before we proceed. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Bickling, you're the one that knows a few things about this.
Right.
You want to speak to this first?
Yeah, so just, I guess, a little bit of background on the way that we approach that is we have this great shining example of the library over here on something that we did not do very well, where we have a heating system that has been kind of a headache, needs repairs, and partially needs replaced after, what, like 14 years or something like that. So going into the Harbormaster's office, we knew that we wanted something that was a simple design, easy to maintain and operate, and really like just something that we can work on ourselves, cheap to fix, and so that's why we went with the used oil boiler, just because it's something that the harbor's very familiar with. They already use it. They already work within the DEC standards of like collecting the oil, filtering the oil, storing the oil. That's the world they work in all the time, and so and it's also free, and it costs us something to get rid of it. So if we don't get rid of it, we have to pay to get rid of it. And so that's kind of the direction that we went with that. So and also too, I went back, we had we meet on a very regular basis now about the harbor project, have discussions with the engineers, the architects, and surveyors, whoever's like doing work at that time for where we're at in the process. And so I had, this morning I had them bring the mechanical engineer from RSA into the call just so we could go ahead and say, I could kind of talk with them a little bit about this. And so when this morning, when we were talking about heat pumps and like looking at running like an air to water heat pump for this facility as something instead of the used oil boiler, he said that he would not recommend that. Just because the air to water heat pumps can't heat the water hot enough for what this facility will need. It requires 50 kilowatts of power where a boiler only requires a few amps. They use a lot of energy. It requires a skilled technician to keep it running, which is very different from kind of like, this type of system is very different from like a residential type system. The engineering firm, he gave us the example of installed an air to water heat pump in Sitka facility last summer. Sitka is powered by hydro, so it's definitely like they have cheaper rates, and so that's something that they wanted to like, hey, like let's look at this. He said after the first winter, he said it struggled to keep the facility at 65 degrees. He said with this type of thing, he said you need to install a backup system anyway, and so what you end up doing is essentially installing 2 systems when you only need 1. And so, and also in our conversations too, and I've talked with Taylor about this, is like the system that's installed there now is not our forever plan. Because we know the electric department is doing, they're doing a lot to try and build infrastructure, get our rates down, and especially with some of the hydro projects coming up, we can definitely see that that the rates will be coming down in the future. And so, I mean, with waste oil though, it's one of those things that's like, it will never actually like pencil out when we have to pay to get rid of fuel. But I think as we do some of these hydro projects, it will get a lot closer so that it makes sense. And it's not, I mean, our plan is when those do come down, and in talking with them, like, this is kind of a plug and play system where if we bring their rates way down, then we can have a future conversation and replace the system that's currently in there. But it's just really hard for us to financially justify it when it's so cheap. And just to address some other comments is like about the old facility actually has 3 heating systems because it's been hobnobbled together over the years, so it's not even an efficient, like, working together type system. So they have one system that runs the restrooms. They have a system, they've got their waste oil system, which kind of runs part of the facility, but it's so inadequate for heating because it's really old. They actually had to put a toyo in up front to kind of heat that area, which is very different, like comparing the fuel usage for that to, this will be like a single unified, very efficient system for this new facility. And also, as we vacate that old facility, I would imagine it will probably be in the not too distant future where we actually look at pulling that old system out of there and doing something else with that, especially if we're going to have another user group that could be occupying that facility or remodeling that facility significantly to add more restrooms or something like that. And so, yeah, that's, I guess, kind of like a little bit of high-level background. I definitely appreciate, like, and I think that that's the desire for us, is we want to have, you know, the cleanest, most efficient systems in there. But I think too, we're in that cost balance place right now where it's really hard to argue with how cheap it is, and the fact that, like, anyone on Tony's crew can pretty much, like, work on those things. They can tear them apart, put them back together, and fix them really easily. And two, I think the heat pump technology is just not there yet, because we're colder than Sitka, and what I don't want is to be putting the system, and then he basically said, if you put the system in, you're going to need a fuel oil backup anyway, because it's not going to be able to maintain itself in the winter. So, and then the other thing is I did want to talk about, just address some comments, is that building is very, very intentionally design deficient. If you even look at the way it's laid out, it's got the long blocking roof that sits on the north side where the hardest winds come from. The south side has windows, you know, east-west entrances, just because that's not where the winds are coming from, and so just even in that aspect. But they're also just doing, I mean, things like triple pane fiberglass windows. They're doing very high levels of insulation. They're doing a lot of just best practices around that. So because that's really the first best way that you can make a building efficient, is just making sure it's really well insulated. So, yeah, happy to answer kind of any questions or comments or
Questions for Mr. Bickling? I think you summarized it. Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor McClure. I know, or correct me if I'm wrong, that when we put together the animal shelter, that system, that building is also running off of some heat pumps, is that correct?
I believe so, yes. Mm-hmm.
Do we know how that's going for that building? I know it's a little bit smaller than the Harbormaster proposed project, but just wondering how they're staying warm in there.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We could,
no, but
maybe you could find that out.
Yeah. I believe it's going well, but it's also a significantly smaller building, but I'll have to double check.
And I would say that what we're doing here is not like the future plan. I think that it makes sense for the harbor because they already maintain that system, and they maintain the waste oil system. They do that, but I wouldn't this is not something I would think of for doing, using in like the police station or fire station or something like that. I think that we are looking at, those are different projects, and so this is not like a thing that we're going to look at like multiplying everywhere just because we have it in one spot.
Okay.
So,
Councilmember Barnard.
Yeah. A couple comments. I think it would be interesting to see if we could find a use of heat pump in South Central Alaska with similar climate to Seward, to see if we could do I know, the problem is we just don't have a lot of time for this thing, so it is a little pinch tonight. I wish we had more time to really kind of vet this and take our time, but I know we don't have as much time. But that would be interesting just to see if there's any equivalent buildings that are using heat pump technology. On the second point, I just think I can't imagine having to ship waste oil back up to Anchorage or the Valley and have them resell it on the market. And basically, you're talking about, we're looking at our carbon footprint in wherever we burn it. If we burn it here, if we burn it in Harbor, if we burn it in Anchorage, or we burn it in the Valley, we have carbon going into the air, and that's essentially the problem here. So I think it's much more environmentally dangerous to transport that oil from here at $3.50 a gallon or whatever it is, and up to Anchorage or the Valley and resell it on the market. It just doesn't make sense for me at all from an environmental perspective. I prefer, I would like to know if there's heat pump technology being used around here, but I would like compromises going forward if we could get it into a system where when we design new buildings, we have it a system where we're very, very vetted in terms of what our heating systems are and how efficient the buildings are, and we have a team that really can verify all of that. I think this one's kind of an unusual one. We did rush this one.
To speak to that a little bit, unfortunately there's not a lot of places in South Central Alaska that look similar to Seward because of natural gas. So any building that's built, any newer building, has access to natural gas and is going to use that as their heating source. I've done some research here and there, but all of their equivalencies in heat pump usage are in the southeast because of the accessibility to cheaper electric and the lack of natural gas resources. That being said, we don't fit into the norm of South Central because we don't have that natural gas. So it's a weighing situation there. And for the time crunch, I think, speaking to Councilmember Draper's point, it's the time to have the conversation, but if we look at like a longer term study, that's when the time crunch would actually begin. So if the conversation happens and we go in one way or the other, like that can be pivoted, but if we look at towards doing a detailed study, that's when I would get nervous about not reaching timelines, but so thinking through future buildings and utilizing that plan and having it incorporated at the beginning would be helpful. But unfortunately, it was just not in the work path that we normally do at this point.
And I would say too, like part of the crunch is that like if we lived in the lower 48, we wouldn't have a crunch. Yeah. Just because our ground's not going to freeze in October or whenever it is, and so that's what we're really trying to push, is so that we can have the foundation in and get this going and get this built this year. Just because if we are doing something where we're like pausing, right, then we'd be pushing out to next year, which just would make it more expensive. So, and I do, Councilmember Barlow, I know that you and I have had conversations about this, but I do think that we do have a lot of other facilities that we're looking at building, and so I do think, like you said, going forward, if we had, like, we could create a pretty like in-depth study of like, hey, here's where this technology makes sense in this facility at this like kilowatt hour or like whatever, kind of do like this thing and maintenance and do like a very comprehensive, like, because we have a lot of facilities to build in the next, whenever we get the money. And so I do think it would be really important to have that out in front. And so.
Councilmember Warner. Thank you, Madam Mayor McClure. I wonder if maybe a middle ground for this, if when we're looking at the next stage of plans, if it could be just very outlined in like where this plug-and-play system might go in the future, where we could potentially put heat pumps in the future, where we could potentially do solar panels or any other renewable energy in the plan that we currently have in place. Where could that go, and maybe just making that a little more transparent?
Yeah, we've had that conversation, so that's fully been the thought the entire time, just because currently, a few years ago, there was lots of monies coming down for solar and that kind of stuff, and it's just not there right now, but when those come back, it would be it makes sense to have like a complete system, because if we're lowering our kilowatt hours and then we have a solar as well, then you can start putting these pieces together to make it so that it's, you're narrowing that margin to make it really cost effective, which is really what we'd like to do at some point in time, so, yeah.
Good information. Councilmember Draper.
I understand that we are going to have a fuel oil backup system, right, for the waste oil with a backup of you. And I would envision that maybe heat pumps would also have a fuel oil backup system. I mean, I was thinking that we would compare those two options so that you wouldn't be 100% relying on the heat pump for heat with the fuel oil backup. I mean, that's one idea I just wanted to put out there. And just to say that the emissions is not nothing, at least to me. Burning waste oil is next only to burning coal, straight coal. I mean, the new boilers do somewhat of a reduction, but if you look at the hierarchy of emissions coming out of the boiler, coal's, I mean, the only thing that would be worse than that. And if we don't have an efficient new one, then it's better to burn coal than that as far as emissions. I mean, you could take out the black smoke and the odor maybe, but there's a lot of contaminants, heavy metals, and other things in there.
Anything else on the subject? Okay, ready to move on? All right, I'm getting nods. Number 4, discuss short-term rentals. This is sponsored by Councilmember Warner. On page 106, there's some information, and do you want to speak to this or have administration say anything first? It's your choice.
I can start.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor McClure. I brought this forward just because this is something that I'm interested in. It's also something that bothers me a little bit. So I was able to pull some data from community development around our short-term rentals. So in the packet on page 106, you can see some numbers in there. So we have a total of 98 properties that are operating as short-term rentals with a total of 168 units. Part of that is some properties have multiple units on them, including multifamily dwellings or multiple bedroom rental configurations. One of the things that kind of struck me about these numbers is there was some changes made back in 2022 around the short-term rentals, and we had put in some requirements about owner-occupied short-term rentals. However, that only took place in our residential zones and not in other zones such as auto commercial or central business. So as of 2025, data, or what is currently up for community development, only 17 of our short-term rentals are owner-occupied. That means these are individuals that live here year-round. There's only 17 of those. Out of 98 properties, for me, that's pretty significant. We have a quite high number of non-owner occupied short-term rentals. Another piece of this too that struck me was there's an estimated of 81 whole house rentals. That's 81 houses in our community that are no longer available to our year-round residents. Some of that is in some non-conforming because they kind of took place during the time of 2022 when we put some of those restrictions. So they were grandfathered in, so a lot of them are in urban residential and R3 zoning. These numbers are estimates, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were off. They're probably only off by a few numbers. So I pulled a bunch of information, and I was actually kind of, sorry, I might talk for a minute here. Thank you. I've got a lot of information. I myself was just unaware that short-term rentals and motel hotels were actually two different permitting processes within cities. So I pulled some of that information just kind of came together as I was looking at short-term rentals. So I put together another graph here with some hotel motel information, just kind of what I could pull in If I had a little more time, could probably fill it out a little bit more. But that was really interesting to see where these zonings are, because it's, auto commercial, central business, some harbor commercial. But these hotels, motels are all in zones where we're seeing these whole house rentals. So we saw just recently, this winter, the old Buick building turning from year-round apartments, rentals, into a hotel motel. And that was completely allowable. It had a CUP that they needed to put in, but because of their zoning, they were allowed to do that. So it just concerns me that we have a very high number of whole house rentals that are not owner occupied, that are in zones that could easily be converted into hotel motels. And so I wanted to bring this before council, because my question is, what is it that we're wanting in our community? Are we wanting to see our downtown area, which is primarily zoned auto, commercial, and central business? Are we wanting to see all of those single-family buildings that are currently here be these short-term whole house rentals? Do we want to look at that again? I had some other things. I'm long-winded here, so I might leave it and maybe I can fill in some blanks if other people have questions, but I also don't have all the answers. So that's what I got.
There's certainly two sides to this. Is your hand up?
Kind of. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, in our zoning for the city, we allow businesses in certain zoned areas, and actually multiple of them, but just our residential and commercially zoned lots and all the other, and I don't remember all of them, I'm sorry, but there's a whole bunch of zones in there. So some are allowed to have businesses, which could be considered a short-term rental business, hotel, commercial, the downtown business district, does that kind of encompass that same thought also? So what I'm trying to get at is that we kind of just, I thought the process was that we were trying to keep residential zoning homes and not have a bunch of short-term rentals invade our residential lots, basically. But was there a method to this? I'm just trying to get at, if that's a good question, I don't know if that can be explained.
Well, I think, if you look at our history, I'm familiar with this because I was part of community development when we brought this back the first time, and I think the thing that's, we've arrived at this place of zoning, and you can hear weird zoning stories of how this got zoned, that's why we have these, different, a single house being zoned something and the rest of the neighborhood's not. But I think the thing that this came from is if you walk a block that way and start walking down the street and or even just going down this way, you may walk down the street, and if you were to, the person would walk up beside you and say what zone is this, or even moving down further in the waterfront or even along the lane or something like that, and you're well, I'm obviously in a residential zone because I'm seeing houses, and you're well, actually you're not, you're in a commercial zone. And so I think that was where, just because this is kind of a similar conversation to what we had before, is that, you have a lot of these homes that are kind of parts of the neighborhoods here that are in commercial zones, even though they may look residential. A lot of them are homes that people are living in or have been living in. Some have been converted to short-term rentals in the past. And so I think that's kind of been the history. And is that what you're kind of speaking to? That I know we call it zoning, but it's just weird thing of if you look at a lot of these places that are zoned commercial, you're it's like a neighborhood. And so I think that's kind of where that this discussion is coming back up again from that place, I believe. Does that answer your kind of
Well, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It does answer. I was just trying to say that I thought that we were trying to not interfere with, because it's a commercially, or things can be done in those zonings, we weren't going to start restricting those outright because of people that had things that were already there, basically, and there was enough of it to where it kind of came an uproar. And so I thought the lowest hanging fruit and the easiest thing to do would take care of the residential lots.
And that's what happened last time.
Thank you.
Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor McClure. I mean, I hear what you're saying, Councilmember Osenga, but these properties that are down in the downtown area have historically been single-family homes where people live there year-round. And now, because of their zoning, they're able to be this whole house rental. And that's fine if that's what the community wants, of course. I just wanted to bring this conversation back up because right now, any of the restrictions that we have around short-term rentals is in our Title 15, which is our land use, and not in Title 8, which this kind of came up with the marijuana, right? Like, that's a conversation we had too, and how do we want to manage marijuana businesses? Well, is this the same kind of conversation that we need to be having with short-term rentals too, especially when we're seeing the majority of our downtown area that's historically been a year-round community space now becoming primarily short-term rentals. Some thoughts that I had was maybe tying some short-term rental permits to our year-round residences. We see that with liquor licenses. We talked about it with the marijuana. We can just, everybody's grandfathered in where they're at and maybe just put on a cap so that way we're not continuing to see these houses that have historically been year-round single-family houses come on the market and then turn into whole house short-term rentals.
Would this be something that could be valuable to have a, I hate to say the word, work session for, where the public could weigh in on this a bit? Because I think there are definitely two sides to the conversation, and not that we're going to act on anything tonight, but I'm just wondering if public input might help, because I have no idea how people feel. I know the people that have short-term rentals, they have them for a reason, like paying off their mortgage or whatever, and I know there's other people that feel the opposite, but maybe we should hear from more people. Let me get Councilmember Warner. No, go ahead, and then I'll get you.
I absolutely agree with you. I also have a short-term rental that I operate. It's at my primary residence. I'm one of those ones that am operating a owner-occupied short-term rental, but I need to do that to be able to continue to live in this community and to raise two young children. So I completely understand the other side of it. But I think where some of my concern is coming up is the high number of whole house short-term rentals that are taking place in our primarily downtown space where it is zoned, these auto commercial business, and then you get into, well, what if 3 of those houses in a row came up on the market and all it takes is a CUP to put up a hotel or motel? But anyways.
Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I think one thing, the first comment I'll make, it would have been really nice to have community development here for this conversation, except they're off at training.
Well, yeah.
And so, because I know that Mr. Bickling has some history with this. I remember a lot of these conversations, and there was part of the discussion back when this got changed, or updated, I should say, for us capping the number of short-term rentals that we allowed in the city. And we never got quite to that point. And, you know, we have always, I won't say always, since the early 90s, we have allowed bed and breakfast to be operated in residential areas as long as they were owner-occupied and a percentage, like 50% of the bedrooms, 25% of the square footage of the house, whatever it was. What happened is we didn't monitor that. And so all of a sudden, you had people opening all kinds of lodging businesses because there was a shortage of lodging in Seward once the mid-90s hit and things started coming, because we had a short-term rental business that we started in '95 in an office residential area in our home where we lived year-round, you know, that kind of thing. And there were only 35 lodging businesses in Seward, total, hotels and everything. And so the chamber and everybody was begging people to open up their homes and use a bedroom and do whatever. And so that's where all of a sudden it went, people were like, oh baby, look at the money I can make. And we never monitored it enough. And so we ended up with this conversation because we ended up with a housing shortage for family housing, and that's what drove the discussion before to change this. And I think there needs to be a discussion about a cap. A lot of communities in this country have done that. A lot of tourist destination communities have done that. And some in Alaska have done that. So it's not a bad conversation to have. Because that's the place where you're gonna start. Is if you cap it and say, this is all there can be, then it doesn't matter if 3 houses downtown go up for sale.
Right, they can't do it.
They're not gonna be able to be short-term rental businesses anyway. So I think that's definitely a conversation that we should have, and I think putting a cap on the number of short-term rental businesses that we allow is probably a major step to make it viable in this town.
Okay, Councilmember Bonner.
I just just to add to that, when we pumped up the building height to 48 feet, those auto commercials on, is that 5th and 4th? There's a lot of smaller lots with small little units, but they could build a 4-story, literally 4-unit.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I think it's auto commercial on the, just up from Blaine.
That's from Blaine.
Do 48 feet for auto commercial?
No, it's not that auto commercial, it was specific to the one out of town.
What's the one right up from Blaine then?
Right up from Blaine.
That'd be 38.
That would be 38 feet.
That's 38?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, anyway, what I was thinking,
Yeah, I just want to say that even at 38, you can put in quite a few units on those smaller, you could buy one of those, trash it, and build a 38-foot short-term rental, and that trend could happen pretty quick, also.
so, work session, including community development and planning?
Including community development. Great.
And with the discussion of caps and things like that. It would have to come when certainly not the first meeting, and not the next meeting, because there'll be fewer people here, but whenever we can schedule that, I would like that. And so question, do we want to invite planning and zoning to attend with public input options, or how do we want it? I mean, they are the planning people. Yes.
Madam Mayor, if you don't mind, I think it'd be a great idea to have them here because they worked through all of this to get it to the point where we changed the code anyway, with that. And I think also part of that discussion will be, I know you guys know this, planning and zoning is land use.
Right.
Title 8 in us is how you get to operate.
Right.
Not.
But still, just that input,
But I think
your history of.
I think a joint session with them would probably be a good idea.
Councilmember Werner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do agree, a joint session would be great with planning and zoning, but also with the understanding of Title 8 and Title 15 during that conversation. One thing I would like to ask, though, I would prefer if we could maybe at least pick a month of where this work session would take place, just so it doesn't fall off the to-do list.
What would be realistic?
I don't have the work session schedule on my head.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything.
Do you want to do the first one in June, first meeting in June?
Sure. Yes?
Okay. Or?
Yeah, I'm fine, I just think.
I would have to check and make sure community development is here.
Yeah, whichever one we can.
Yes, we'll do it within the next 4 meetings.
Okay, does that sound all right?
Is that okay?
Is that what you were?
I don't want to sign Danny and Courtney up for anything while they're out of town.
Okay, and thank you for bringing that up, Councilmember Warner. Okay, one last discussion item, and it's Councilmember Warner, and I don't remember exactly the title, so either Mr. Clerk, could you read it, or we'll ask her to read it?
I have it here on the computer.
Okay.
Discuss state funding for early educators for recruitment and retention. Did I get that right?
Okay, Councilmember Warner, and then give us an idea of what you want us to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor McClure. I wanted to bring this forward just because it is a little timely. In the State House budget, they had a line item for funding early educator recruitment and retention funds, and so that passed all the way through the House budget process, went over to the Senate side, and the Senate side has removed that line item from their budget. So a little bit of history around this is Juneau has a very similar program that's supported by their city and borough. Seward also has a very similar program to what is essentially being envisioned with these funds. What we found in Seward with our data by providing recruitment and retention funds is that we've seen continued engagement by all of our 100% of our early childhood educators in the community have engaged in our program, and they've all taken upon themselves to engage in continuing education, so that way they can continue to receive those funds. And what that's done is it's increased the quality of our child care programs here in Seward. So what this funds would do at the state level would essentially make that available to all of our early childhood educators across the state. And so my reasoning for bringing this forward now is wondering if council would be in agreement to send a letter to the Senate asking them to reinstate that budget item.
Council. This would be directing.
Yeah, so I had a conversation with Councilmember Warner earlier today, and based off of the previous resolution we passed of saying that Seward recognizes childcare as an economic driver, I was comfortable, I would have been able to write it and send it from my office, but having a council-led letter and that's signed by the mayor, but yes, I would still write it and then have you sign it.
Are we in agreement that she could do this, or any objections? You're getting nods,
Okay,
so
great.
thank you for that. And just let me know as soon as you have it, and I'll bring the magical pen.
Great.
Okay.
Magical cup.
Magical pen. Okay, thank you. That's all of that, and it brings us to citizen comments. This is the up to 5 minute time. There's no sign in, and we have a hand up already. Come on up, Tim.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. A couple points of order. One is, that sounds like a P&Z issue, what we were just discussing on the short-term rentals. Maybe I'm wrong, but, zone no more short-term rentals or whatever. It seems to me that it's a bit of usurpation of their authority, and they should make a decision, and then it would come to you, instead of you guys making the decision and handing it to them. Just my thoughts. The other one, and I know this is a hard one, I don't mean to offend anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. I was a member of Optimist International for several years when I lived in San Diego. And when we had our meetings, everybody had to speak for at least 1 minute. There's 20 or 30 of us. It was all high-powered businessmen in Point Loma. And if you said or or ooh, you got fined $1. So there's nothing wrong with the little silence to collect your thoughts. Just stop. Don't say or And like I said, I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, but I'm listening to on the radio, and every other word was ooh. You guys are making $1 million decisions, and a lot of important decisions, and you need to speak professionally. And I mean, I would suggest bringing in a speech consultant and giving everybody a little meeting. It's a hard habit to develop, I know it, but it sounds like a bunch of kindergartners when you guys are saying and only one or two of you didn't do it continuously. So I just, like I said, it's a point of order, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but you are professionals, even if you're not paid professionally, and you need to speak professionally. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tim. Who else would like to speak? You're afraid to now. Yes, come on up. I know you waited a long time for this.
I can speak from back here. My wife says I don't need a megaphone.
Oh, well, that's okay. It goes out and it's probably better if you...
Yeah,
And then you need to
so I
once
yell.
again say who you are, because people that are listening don't know.
Okay, is that the camera right there?
The camera is on you.
Okay, I hope my partner's watching right now because our battery, we had a bad day.
Excuse me, could you give your name again?
Oh, I'm sorry, Steve Green.
Outside this.
Outside, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now you can go ahead.
Anyways, we're a new company. I think you know that. This is my first time before, or second time before city council. I set a decoy up out here. It's got the new brilliant lights on it. And the battery's kind of low. And so I turned it off, so when you people leave tonight, I'll turn them on. You can see the difference in the brilliance of the lights. I'll be back in Memorial Day to bring the new decoy to Moose Pass. I wanted to talk to Chief Lou because right now you guys all got a brochure. I haven't even had a chance to read it yet. So I rushed here, and the trailer was 2 inches too short for the decoy, so my wife and I, he probably seen us out there cussing, but I brought it here to set it up. You guys have all seen it. Maybe Memorial Day, when you get the big push with the people coming in fishing, if you want to try a decoy, or for Nash Road is where I was told that you guys really need one. So, but I'm just here to tell you that we're here. We're in Anchorage. It's no problem for us to come out here with a decoy and test it wherever you want to. I'm going to be here all summer long anyways, so other than that, let's see. The state of the DOT, they came up with a name now called the traffic calming device, what you see on that brochure. That was for our decoy here, and they did allocate $500,000 for traffic calming devices, not decoys, but I'm hoping that we fall in there somehow. So other than that, I'm going to be testing. I'm going to go to Cooper Landing again to the Three Bears, and other than that, I just, this is a learning curve for me, so I don't even really know what more to say other than my wife and I, we spent the last 4 summers here and bouncing back between Cooper Landing and Moose Pass, and so we'll be there this summer, and if you want a decoy, we'll come out, we'll put it up, no charge. And
So perhaps maybe you could discuss this when the meeting's over with the chief too.
Yeah, I will, and he's got everything that you guys all have too. So other than that, hey, thank you. It's great to come out here, and the decoy program, it fills a need, and it saves lives. I believe it really does in the long run, and they're cheap. So, and we can lease purchase, we can rent, outright sell. That's up to you people. So I'll just, maybe next month I'll come back. But the next meeting is on the 27th, is that right?
It's on May 11th.
Yeah, we can get a speeding.
May 11th.
Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, wouldn't really be talking to us, right? To be kind of presenting to the manager and...
Yeah, I don't know who I'm talking to.
You don't know, but that's why I'm saying at the end, if you speak, I mean, we can talk after the meeting too.
Oh, sure, yeah, well, okay. I'll be out there trying to fit that thing back in.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Anyone else? Bruce? I like your Garfield folder there.
Me too. Okay, Council Mayor, got a little bit more time now. I will,
We need your name in the whole.
oh, Bruce Jaffa, Moose Pass, outside the city. Steve did bring his decoy to Moose Pass, and it works. We had a trooper parked, Lou Reith was our local trooper for years and years. When he parked his car there, people slowed down. After he retired, we had a problem. We still have a problem with the road, and I mentioned before, we're gonna need your help encouraging DOT to get something done. Now the project is again stalled. It looks like they'll break it into half. Do the northern part first, I hope, out near where I live, and then the more problematic part through Moose Pass will come later. But with the tour buses, et cetera, it's gonna be a problem, and Steve's decoy may help. I prefer to have more troopers, but, okay, so first, I would like to compliment this council. I've watched councils for a lot of years, and you guys are just normal folks. You know, you're not Dartmouth, Harvard, Stanford, which is great, but you take on some interesting projects, bring forward some really interesting conversation, and Councilmember Calhoun's memory of the events here in town is outstanding, remembering how some of these things with the long-term, short-term rentals happened. So with the compliments, I'll try to drop into some of my comments here. The South Uplands design work, this is rushed. And in one of the things that I provided tonight was a letter from a community member showing parking. I have gotten from a number of people who know boat trailers and parking, and R&M's design sucks. Backing in a trailer with a truck into a space, that's nuts. There are people in this community that understand how this works. I don't think R&M's listening to them. And Mr. Beckling certainly has probably hears from these people all the time. It's apparently not getting through to the designers. The city's rushed headlong into costly outsourcing in a lot of things that could be done locally, and I encourage the city to move some of those things back with a position. Bob Linville, who you all know, was a city engineer for a while. He brings an expertise that's not available today in Seward. Engineers think differently than a lot of other folks. I firmly support alternative energy, and a wise consideration would be to allow, I'd like the term plug and play, an option. And I do not agree that these systems that we're talking about, heat pumps or any alternate, takes any more expertise than a boiler. The boiler down there at the library wasn't maintained. So, I mean, anybody can learn something. We've got some excellent technicians here in town, so don't discount that on that. In closing, I'd like to express my appreciation to all who have participated with me at PACAB over the years, the opportunity to provide input to the city code. I believe our board has contributed to the health and well-being of Seward. We keep our eyes on city needs and help plan for the future. On that board today, we have two young men who were born and raised here at Seward. They have a real interest in this town. You have council members who were high school people. I recently was able to listen to or participate in the AvTech trade fair. The people that came to my counter and asked questions were, I don't know if they were prepped, but they were ready to go. They had interesting questions. They'll make excellent tradesmen, craftspeople in the world. I also reviewed some scholarships as part of a group that I listened to, and I'm knocked out by the applicants that presented applications for scholarship. Our future, if we rely on the people, our young people that are coming up, is in good shape. So again, thank you all for the opportunity that I've had with PACAB over the years, and I'll stay tuned. I won't be here for the May, one more thing, I won't be here for the May 27th meeting, but I believe in authority with Seward retaining the utility, the ownership of the utility. and having a separate independent board to make decisions is in the city's well-being, an authority, not a co-op.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay.
Those inside city limits, I guess I just have to respond a little bit to some of the comments made. Again, in terms of waste oil, the existing harbor building only uses half their heating as waste oil. They have another 3,000 gallons they're buying of regular oil. I just do not see where we're ever shipping waste oil out of town. And we got new buildings coming in, a new public works building coming in down the road. I just think that's a non-issue. And unless somebody can show me otherwise, I think it is. In terms of other big heat pumps, I mean, if you talk to an engineer in Juneau, this is just 101 engineering. The fact that an acreage engineer doesn't understand heat pumps, I just can't accept that. The fact that, well, they don't make hot enough water, well, there's every variety in the world of heat pumps that can make whatever temperature you want. It's just the efficiency issue. You do radiant floor heat and you design an efficient building that Jason's saying we're doing, is very simple to provide 100, 120 degree water for space heating needs. In terms of backup, you know, a lot of systems just put in several heat pumps, just like you put in several boilers. But to have a small, you know, some additional oil or electric for those couple days when it gets below zero, you know, it would be useful to have something, but it's just not a big deal. Juneau's got dozens, if not hundreds, of large heat pumps going now. You know, the Juneau Airport is heated with a heat pump. One of the Sedona hospitals has been heated with a heat pump for, I don't know, almost 2 decades now. You know, the Sea Life Centers had their heat pumps going. Their CO2 heat pumps were an early generation of that technology, and they didn't last quite as long as they wanted to, but their train heat pumps that they've had for probably almost 10 years are just working fine. So I just don't see this issue of, you know, maintenance and whatnot, because nobody else is experiencing that uses them. Yeah, so, you know, making not enough hot water is just an engineering issue. That is not a heat pump issue. In terms of DEC and EPA, you know, the regulations for waste heat, for waste oil, you got to recognize that, you know, those are public facilities. The stuff that can go into those waste oil containers can be anything. Some of it very hazardous, some of it not so much. And that's why DEC requires for public facilities, they be tested to assure that you're not burning bad stuff. I've requested public information for permits and testing, and I've received nothing back so far. So I think it is important that we make sure that we're complying with regulations, because they're not going to get easier, they're only going to get harder. And the idea of burning waste oil, you know, may very well go away before we even, you know, have a chance to address it. I don't know, I just would like to think that we're smart enough to look forward and not live in the past. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll bring it back to council. Administration comments and responses. Administration.
No, thank you, I'm good. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Bickley?
No, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Calhoun.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just congratulations to the cheerleaders in Seward. Great job. The Tsunami Bowl, NOSBI, whatever you want to call it. It's a great program. We've been involved in that for a long time, feeding about 100 mushy little minds breakfast while they're here. It's great. The kids love it. They have a great time, and some really smart kids. So congratulations to those folks too. A lot of stuff that I could say I'm going to leave until our first May meeting because it's not here yet. Just don't forget Mother's Day. That is prior to our first meeting in May. So do not forget your mothers, and everything else I'd like to say, I'd probably hurt somebody's feelings, so I'm going to keep it to myself.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the only thing that I just want to say is our children are our most valuable natural resource, and in a state that relies on natural resources, I just want to make sure that we're keeping them at the forefront of a lot of the work that we do.
Thank you. Councilmember Barnwell.
No, good meeting. Thank you, Councilmember Warner, for bringing up the short-term rental discussion that needed to happen. So I'm really glad that we got that going. Tough decisions on the Harbormaster. Mr. Kaluza, thank you for bringing it up and being such an advocate, and we are trying. I know it's frustrating. But this will happen. We are determined, I think, as a town to be more efficient with our buildings. That's it.
Councilmember Draper.
Yeah, just a couple things. I'll reserve my comments on the heat pumps. I've said my piece on that, I think. But I was able to attend the Kite Festival on Saturday. It was super fun. My grandkids got to fly a kite, and we had a great deal of fun. I am reporting that the first daffodil in my yard may bloom tomorrow. It is late. Last year was April 4th. I did get to meet up with the auditors. I was extended an opportunity to meet with the city auditors, and that was very fun. They were very welcoming and answered a few questions that I had about their process and everything, so that was great. And I also wanted to thank Bruce for continuing to bring up commercial fishing. It's near and dear to my heart, and I hope that we can do a better job for them.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Osenga.
Well, I can start off with congratulations to the high school cheer team, cheerleaders. They're pretty awesome. And the Ocean Bowl Science, I don't know what it was called.
Tsunami Bowl.
Tsunami Bowl. Congratulations to them also. And I would just like to say, tomorrow, our Seward Community Band will be having our spring concert tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the Seward Middle School. Bonus, though, is that there's a group of high schoolers that have gotten together with the music teacher, and they have gotten enough things together, so they are going to perform before us 6:30 to 7 o'clock at the middle school. So I think it'd be kind of cool to see them. We haven't had a high school group play music here in, I don't know, years, decades almost, I'd say, without hopefully not exaggerating too much. So I'm looking forward to seeing the high schoolers and what they can come up with. I had fun kind of messing with their drummer because I was using his floor tom and mice kit when I was rehearsing, and then I bring it back, but I wouldn't put it back the way he had it. So I got to hear all the complaints about how somebody was messing with this poor kid's drum set, and he didn't know it was me. But it was quite fun. So yeah, if you can make it at 6:30, a little before 6:30 to see the high school do their thing, that would be great. But the Seward Community Band, we start at 7 at the middle school. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, we've had a lot of things going on in Seward in the last week with the industry, the Cape Head Industry Outlook Forum, and there was if you didn't know, a poetry festival here for almost an entire week. I attended their reading on Saturday. It was amazing. So there's a lot going on. I walked up the canyon a bit and happened to catch the sandhill cranes going over. Lots and lots of them. I even managed to get a video with the sounds so I could show a few of the birders around town. Yes, they're back, or at least they're passing over, and I've been told that some of them have been spotted landed here for a while, so that's cool. Thank you, Bruce, for all your service. I hate to see you move along past PACAB, but maybe you're probably ready to be free of that a little bit, but I appreciate that. Next Saturday, this coming Saturday, there are events, like, isn't this coming Saturday the Pink Cheeks?
Yes.
And then the following Saturday is the bike rodeo. Yes. That would be the 9th, and the Sam Daniel cleanup day. So if you get your bags in order and start picking up trash, people have already begun, I see. So we're making the town look spiffier all the time. Does anyone have any final Yeah, I knew it. Okay, Councilor.
I haven't had a final for a
It's-
while.
I know, it's.
So this is one I'll give them a little bit of trouble for, but for those of you that know her, Claire Sullivan was named as the Member of the Year for the auxiliary in the state of Alaska at the state convention this last weekend.
Well, congratulations,
Congratulations.
Claire. All right. Anything else? All right, it's been a pretty long meeting. It's time to adjourn. It is 9:35.